and welcome to the Theatre Pitch podcast. My name is Jem, this is Joe.
Hello.
And this is Sean.
Hello.
And in this episode, it's a very special episode because it's part of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I completely got a little bit, I'm just like, it's Edinburgh Fringe.
Jemma,
yes.
Jemma, I hate to be that guy, but I believe it's called the Edinburgh Festival Fringe.
It is the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. He's right.
Is it?
I don't want to be that
It's
guy,
Ed Fringe.
but it is.
Well, it's part of PBH.
It's short for Ed Festival Fringe.
It's part of the PBH Free Fringe, and I know that name because they are great. And usually in this podcast, we take a random online encyclopedia article, and each of us come up with a pitch of how we turn it into a theatre show. And this is the final special episode for PBH Free Fringe this year, where we are breaking all of the rules. We've spent the month going with guests through various different pitches, but because we love Edinburgh so much, we're doing a little bit of a different thing. We are breaking the rules, and we are just going to do an Ed Fringe roundup.
Yeah, think of this as kind of a wee blue book of nostalgia.
Ooh, very much so.
That's why Jem presents this podcast, because I was like, should we just do an extra episode where we just have a chat? And then Jem just was like, it's a roundup, it's a blah blah, it's this, it's that. And I was just there, we're just going to have a chat. Spoilers, guys.
Yeah,
Jem's marketing brain is going to spin this, but actually it's just a chat about the Fringe, which is actually even better.
So yeah, we are mostly just today be talking about memories and kind of pics of things we remember from however many years we've now been to the Fringe.
Yeah.
How many years have you been to the Fringe, Joe?
I went to the Fringe every year between 2012 to 2019, including those years. And of those, I think 5 of them I went as a performer.
Okay, you beat me. Because I think I've been since 2012. But there was one Fringe that I had to miss because I was doing other things in August. It completely threw my year off. Genuinely threw my year off. Didn't know what was happening. But, yeah. Well, Sean, when was your first one? Was it 2015? No. I can't remember.
14.
No.
Yes. No. 15.
15. Yeah. Because you came up with...
I've done 5 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. You came up with OFT's first show.
Yes, I did.
Our
great
first
show. The show that will only be mentioned now in this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I see a lot of the topics, and a lot of the topics are like, favourite this, favourite that, favourite that. That show will not be in anything that includes the word favourite.
It will maybe appear in other things, but that's a spoiler. So we've got a few sort of talking prompts, and I'm going to go straight into the first one. Actually, I'm not, because I like that question, and I know what my answer is going to be. It's going to be too mushy for the beginning of a show. So, what's your favourite show that you've ever seen at the Fringe?
Of like the favourite show.
Yeah.
Favourite show.
I'll be honest, I tried going back through any records of things I'd written down through old ticket stubs, and I managed to narrow it down to a top 3 for each year I'd been to the Fringe.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think you want to hear my top 24.
But if you could see one show you'd seen at the Fringe every single day for the rest of your life, and that was your like hell show and your Groundhog Day show, which one would it be?
See, there are various ones, but I'm actually going to go back to hear what is kind of... It's not necessarily the first great show I went to here, but now if we're changing the rules to what show would be the one show I'd go and see, it would be Baby Wants Candy. Because it's a different show every night.
It's an improv show. That's cheating.
Yeah. That's cheating.
But also, there is a reason for this, which is Baby Wants Candy I saw in my first year there as a performer. But also, while there... did end up getting... Because what they do is basically Baby Wants Candy are a improvised musical company. So each night from one audience member, they take a random suggestion for a title. And in my first year there as a performer, I ended up going to see them. The first time we saw them, they picked my show title, which was the fantastic Too Faustus, Too Furious. And then after that, ended up going to do a Baby Wants Candy workshop. And then, for 2 years afterwards, I would end up going to Baby Wants Candy shows, and the various members of Baby Wants Candy still remembered me from that workshop.
Oh, that's good. That's amazing. Like,
yeah. So, if for some reason you're watching this, Al Samuels, shouting you out, homeboy for life.
Love it. What about you, Sean?
Yep. So,
It's harder than you think, isn't it?
I am gonna go. I think it's, yeah, I know. It is the best. I think it's the best series of shows, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna go. It's hard to pick.
Can I guess what I think you're gonna say?
Yeah, of course you can.
Because I think this is gonna come up as one that I'd pick for later on. I'm not going to say for what thing, but is it by any chance the Police Cops series?
No.
Oh.
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, they're up there, but I wasn't gonna. I mean, yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It definitely will come up.
Top recommendation.
My favourite, and I think it's some of the best theatre I've ever seen.
Oh.
Is Shitface Shakespeare.
Yeah, that, like, as a concept is brilliant.
They are, not only are they really good actors, but their concept of their show is brilliant. To do what they do and to get away with it is amazing. So, guys, Shitface Shakespeare is, they take proper trained Shakespearean actors. They rehearse like an hour-long version. For the Fringe, it's like an hour-long version of a play, of one of the plays, and they get one of the cast members absolutely pissed and sort of like let him or her do whatever they want. And it's that. And I think my favourite version is Romeo and Juliet.
I'm jealous.
I think it was amazing. They were just joke after joke, and the guy who was drunk was just like, I'm going to be in every scene, I'm going to do it. Although, my favourite moment of what one of their shows was when I saw one of their Hamlet production, and the guy who was drunk, so Ophelia's dad comes on the scene, and the guy who's drunk clearly has thought he's further along in the show, because he starts talking to him about like his daughter and how he regrets like she's dead and all that stuff, and he's like, what you on about? So like the brother actor's trying to keep it still, but like she hasn't died yet, and it takes this like drunk actor quite a while to realise what's going on, and then Ophelia comes in, and yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Shitface Shakespeare. I think they're great.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty good, but there's another actually like really good kind of drinking based show that's been at the Fringe a few years.
Yeah. They do a version called Shitface Showtime.
Yeah, that's what I was on about, Shitface Showtime.
Which is like I've seen them. I've seen them because like I think they're the same company, but it's different performers. So I've seen them do The Wizard of Oz, which was a lot of fun, and I saw them do Oliver, which was hilarious because the guy who was drunk, every time he weren't on like stage, he'd just come out and sit with the audience, and he was like, "I never get to see this bit, so I'm gonna watch it." Yeah. and then he'll go. He was going from like the seats to the stage, doing his bit, and then coming back and sat down. I mean, there's a lot of fun. Go watch it. I think go.
They will be there.
And they even made Macbeth good. I find Macbeth... I'm just getting it out there now. I find Macbeth so boring. It's too... Yeah, you know what? It's too long. We all know what happens.
It's like one of his shortest scripts.
Macbeth is long, isn't it?
It's only like an hour 40 to 2 hours.
It feels long. It
The
feels long.
BBC, Sean, have you ever seen the BBC version
Oh,
that James
no,
McAvoy was in?
No. It's the same. You just need
No,
more
but
drunk
honestly,
people.
that was a really, really good adaptation.
You sound like every single person I say I don't like Macbeth too, and they're all there like, oh, once you see this production, it's the same. It's that we all know what's happening, and I find it boring. All right, I'm just there, sat the whole time thinking, why aren't these people doing like Midsummer's Night's Dream?
So what you're saying, Sean, is to you, kind of Macbeth is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, ultimately signifying nothing.
Over 400 years, yeah.
And if you didn't get that, by the way, that was a quote from Macbeth. Yes.
I'm so happy that you are somebody in my life who could just pull Shakespeare out of your ass like that.
Look, I've made this very clear by now. I have a broken brain. It's just full of cultural references and very little room for emotion.
I love that.
So, Jemma,
yeah.
what was the question? Favourite show?
Favourite show?
Favourite
I struggled.
Show? Hey, Jem, what's your favourite show?
I struggled because I've got so many, and like I was trying to cheat and kind of link them to other answers.
Oh yeah, but if you only had to pick one.
And say you was in Groundhog Day and you had to watch it over and over again.
Well, I would, without a doubt, be every single moment of every single day in the Magic Faraway Cabaret. It's part of the PBH Free Fringe. It plays in the Voodoo Rooms. It's run by Mr. Meredith. It is my absolute joy. I love that show, and it is a key to so many hilariously good memories of the Fringe. So it's a cabaret, and it's in the Voodoo Rooms, which is one of my favorite venues. It's just totally cool. Mr. Meredith is one of the best MCs that I've seen run a cabaret. Absolutely adore the sing-alongs and the raucous nature of this of the pirate ship he runs. But the Magic Faraway Cabaret, just every time I've seen it, and it was the first cabaret I ever saw, but every time I've seen it, it has astonishing acts. And, you know, I every year, I make sure that I have time to go see the Magic Faraway Cabaret. And whenever I can, I take people who've never been to cabaret to see the Magic Faraway Cabaret. And that's the way I know that it's going to be a spectacular night, because I remember the time I took Sean to see it. Sean, do you remember the time that I took you to see the Magic Faraway Cabaret? Or do I need to give you a memory jog?
No, I do remember it. I know you're going to start talking about the burlesque lass with the milk. But I think it's really weird that you've picked a cabaret show as your favourite show at the Fringe. That it's good, and I know what you're saying. The fella's a good host, and that's actually where we found out about Rizzo.
Lady Rizzo,
great performer. But I just feel like your favourite show is a show of little bits of other shows.
I mean, it's not even about the little bits of other shows. It's about the energy that's in that room. It's about the vibe. It's about the experience. It's, you know, Mr. Meredith brings this amazing energy and this amazing, just feeling into the room. And it has amazing talent. And I look forward to it every year. And I was going to put it as, like, recurring act. Or, you know, I was going to try and figure it out and put it into something else. But ultimately, if you could only see one, if you could travel up to Edinburgh and spend exactly an hour in Edinburgh before you had to come back during the Fringe, what hour would you spend? It would be for the Magic Faraway Cabaret. So, and that's not me cheating to like see as many shows as I can because it's a cabaret. It's just I go for that cabaret.
I just wanted you to explain. I feel like everything you said there right. I just wanted you to explain why you'd pick the cabaret. I know, and you're right. He gets these amazing acts because the show's good. We've all been to cabaret shows. We've all been involved. I mean, I don't know if like improv was. Anyway, we've all seen like they're even, you know, there's a big scale of like cabarets, like oh, this is a bit shit, or it's like, this is amazing, because you know there's some cabarets where it's just like this person wants to be a stand-up, but they haven't got a solid 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That's sometimes what you think it is.
And it's just, it's just this amazing stuff. It's like magic. It is. It's like magic going on. It's on the Magic Faraway Cabaret. So,
out of interest, if you're saying it's like magic, why didn't you pick a magic show?
Because because my big memory with magic shows, I have to say, as much as I enjoy a little bit of magic, the key Fringe magic moment for me was 2019 when we went up as just punters to the Fringe, and I made the wonderful, wonderful mistake / greatest decision, which was to allow Sean Brady to manage and program our calendar. So we were averaging like 10 shows a day, 12 shows a day. And there was one day where we'd gone particularly hard, and I think it was either my 14th or 15th show of the day. It was 1 a.m. It was the lock-in cabaret at Voodoo Rooms. And I came to, on stage, with one of my favourite magic acts, the audience kind of going, ah, and they'd just done a trick with me, a card trick. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And they turned around and said, I mean, it went wrong, but glad you're into it, basically. And it was a moment where I literally, it was like I blacked out and I just came to on stage in a magic show. So
Yeah.
I like magic, but there is something actually magical about the Magic Faraway Cabaret.
Is it cool if I just take a quick moment, by the way, to essentially kind of quickly rattle off some of the other shows I was going to say of some of my kind of like favourites over the year?
Joe, you could have done that in the time you asked permission to do it.
I know, yeah. But yeah, so essentially, to go through some of them, my first year I went to the Fringe, I was only there for one day, but my first introduction to the Fringe was in the form of Nick Helm, who always puts on a great show. Other classics include...
Hold on. Before you keep going, Sean, what was your first Fringe show?
What was my first Fringe show?
Yeah. What's
What's
the show that you... What's
I
the first show that
Do you want me to rattle off some while you think about this?
Yeah, let me check.
Rattle them off
go
as
check.
if we could, like,
I'll be
throw
back
them
in a
on
second.
screen,
I'm gonna
like...
check.
Yeah, so some of the other great ones. A few years ago I went to see Rose Matafe's show Horn Dog. That was spectacular. The Three Deaths of Ebony Black, I think I've mentioned previously on this podcast. Fantastic. Bruce, beautiful. There was a group, a Canadian double act, I think they're called Charles. They did a show called Moby Alpha that was a Moby Dick but in space. That was a stunning use of kind of essentially a lecture hall and no props, just spacesuits with lights in the helmets to tell a story that was stunning. Kate Berlant, Rachel Paris's show Best Laid Plans was a beautiful melding of a story of the time she contacted Samaritans with musical comedy. Incredible.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And of course, one that has a dear place in my heart, the Pajama Men, stunning act, was a few years ago we saw a group called Superbolt Theatre do a show about Jurassic Park.
I'd forgotten about that. That's such a good show.
Yeah, within this show, essentially the idea was that two children, a daughter and a son, and the father are at the Marine Theatre in Lyme Regis, and they're showing a showing of Jurassic Park on the anniversary of the death of the mother of the family. And the VHS breaks, they have to reenact the movie. And it starts out being all fun, but the more it builds up about this, it essentially reveals this like utter bruised heart of a production, as it becomes more about the way that this film has connected with them and provided a kind of tether between the family, and especially a family that unit is broken apart by the death of the mother.
It was
I am
brilliant.
unashamed to say it's one of the... I'll be honest, it's not a short list with me. I cry at a lot of things. but I fucking bawled at that.
Yeah, I
Hang
remember
on,
you did.
I've
and
just
it was...
come in halfway through that. Are you on about Dinosaur Park?
Jurassic Park, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
they're
when we saw it
brilliant.
was called Jurassic Park, shortly after they had to change the name to Dinosaur Park for legal reasons.
What,
Amazing.
who are they? Super Bowl Theatre.
Yeah,
They are
Super
brilliant.
Bowl,
They've
yeah.
done another show the year after.
Mars
called
Actually. I've
Mars
got a poster of
Actually.
it just over there. You'll
Yeah.
have seen it in the one podcast where I accidentally recorded that wall.
So, Sean, have you figured out what your first show was?
Well, I went and got the little blue book from 2015.
Aww.
So yeah, so I don't remember because like I absolutely love the Fringe now. Like it is literally one of like it's literally one, and it's like I don't journal, but I make notes about what I've seen. Right, but my notes started 2016 because I didn't realise in 2015 how great it was. So give me a second to try and think. But let's go on to the next one.
Wait,
and
I can tell about my first show. I remember
Yeah.
it distinctly, and it's actually quite impressive.
I thought I'd just
I
interlude
didn't know
here.
that was one of the topics of discussion.
Yeah,
Well,
I thought I'd just throw in here. By the way, I was just sitting here still thinking about Dinosaur Park, and just remembering a specific bit of the show, and I'm about to cry again.
Okay, so whilst Joe cries and Sean's got his nose in a book, my first show, and I'm quite proud of this being my first show, because I got to Edinburgh, I was working for somebody else as a promoter, ran all the way to Pleasance, did all of the induction-y type things, and then went, oh, I've got a couple of hours, what do I do now? And I went and saw the very first show that I was like just kidnapped into, which is at the Pleasance, and it was The Play That Goes Wrong. And it was the first time that they were showing it at the Fringe. It was a couple of years before they were picked up for the West End. And I was one of four...
Classic Jeb. I saw it before everyone thought it was great.
I was one of 4 people in the audience, and 2 people at least were part of production. And I thought it was absolutely bloody brilliant. And I had a chat with the director afterwards, and they were like, oh no, man, it's just not going well. And I'm like, this is an astonishing piece of work. Keep behind it. So I feel like I'm part of the success of a West End show.
Yeah. You didn't bother saying to them, you know what, it might go better if the play went right.
No, that show is quite astonishing, and I'm very happy to kind of encourage people to go and see it at the West End. Even at West End prices, I think it's absolutely worth it, and they've made it so much fuller by being at the West End. So that was quite a privilege.
So I can't remember the first show that I saw. I think it might have been Joe's show. I think maybe I got there on the evening and went and saw Joe's show. Maybe. I remember the first show that I watched when I went off on my own, so away from the group we were. I was like, I'm going on an adventure. So the first one I ever saw on my own was a show called Zero Quest, which was basically D&D with the audience, and like the stand-up like led it, and he was like, we're gonna get the audience through, and he had placards with like drawings on, and I remember like he had like a crossbow, and like an audience member had to like kill like the big bad at the end. And we actually went to like his second show the year after called Zero Quest 2.
Okay.
And then we completed the trilogy called Zero Quest 3, I think it might have been that. So yeah, that was my there were better versions of that on the Fringe, but I think going to that, like I say it so many times, I really wish I knew about the Fringe before university.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you see theatre without like knowing like the little quirks of it, you only think like West End musicals, and you think like the big national plays. You don't realise that it can literally be, you know, a person at the front and some chairs, and that, and you can build all the worlds that you want. And he does in this guy, this guy.
Is this the one that
good.
you took me to see? And it's
I took everyone to see it.
Yeah, oh wow, yeah, that was an astonishing performance.
All right, Jem.
No, honestly, I remember turning to you because I was just like, I was kind of like, oh gosh, here goes another like board game based show or video game based show, and I was a little bit like, okay.
They're like, I need to start coming to the Fringe with other people.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I remember just like my jaw dropped and I was so engaged, and I remember turning to you afterwards and went, wow. So top props.
Sean,
Joe.
you know how you were just mentioning that you went to see you went to see Zero Quest, or we've seen Zero Quest more than once. I think that's a great way for us to move on to our next category, which is favourite recurring act.
Yes. Nice segue. This is why you're here. Can you just write all of my segues, please, Joe? So, what is your favourite recurring act?
Well, I went first last time, so I think I should go last this time. We'll keep it cycling like that.
Sean?
So I've got an absolute ton that I go and see all the time, right? So obviously, I'll see Shitface Shakespeare every year. I'll see Shitface Showtime every year. I will go and see Colt Cabana's show every year. Colt Cabana, he's a wrestler, and he literally just watches wrestling in front of wrestling like fails, and as we all have a giggle about it. It's a great show. What else do I see loads? I always go back to see Olaf Falafel, who is like the best stand-up comedian ever. The fact that people just Google it now, just Google it, just for that name, Olaf Falafel. He's so funny, and and do you know what? He's such a nice guy, because I went to his show in 2015 and haven't missed one. And when I come out, he always says hello. He's like, "Oh, it's great to see you again." He's such a, I mean, like a lot. I'm betting a lot of people are like that who do the Fringe, but I feel like he's the only one he's the only one that knows, the only one that recognises me. But it is. But I think there's two. I'm having two. The first one is Skeptics on the Fringe. I think it is.
How did I know that it was going to be Sean mentioning Olaf and Skeptics at the Fringe?
It is brilliant, and I'm not counting it as like a show, because there's no, it's not the same every night. It is literally a lecture of like a really random topic that would never ever be a lecture in like academia, but someone's done it, and it's really interesting, and it's so different that you go see like musical, stand-up, improv, a serious play, and then then you just like every now and then go and sit in here, and it's like, oh, this is a thing, let's have a think about it, and it's like really interesting no matter what it is, and it's always a lot of fun. So if you're ever at the Fringe, try and see one of them.
And top tip, because it's virtual this year, they are doing actually a load of virtual stuff, and they do it all throughout the year as well. There's your present from me to you.
Thank you, Jem. Thanks for telling me now instead of like years ago. If they do it like every year.
I don't know if they did it years ago, but I know that they've been doing it regularly throughout this past year.
Yeah,
but they've definitely done it at the Fringe this year.
They've had to start doing it since performances became illegal.
Yeah, I will be watching that. Guys, come and watch it with me.
Yeah.
My favourite recurring thing, and this is because of Joe. This will be one of the many shows that I'll be like, oh, I know this show because Joe took me to it. The Dark Room.
Oh,
I knew that was coming.
Is by far one of the best hours of my year. Every time I go and see it, it is straight up crazy. And the fact that not only is it a show, it's a show that like sells out. You go there every day, and it's like, what's the show about? Oh, it's about this really aggressive man who stands at the front in a dark room with a torch and shouts at people until they make bad decisions that cause them to die. And then everyone at that point says, you die, you die, you die. And it's the greatest thing ever.
It's more of a cult than it is a show, and it's absolutely... John Roberts is a fantastic... My favourite, I have to say, I'm glad that you brought it up because I wasn't too sure where I could slot Darkroom in, because I remember the first time, Sean, you took me to Darkroom and I was a little bit like, okay, and then because you refused to let us sit in the front, and I didn't understand why, because my thing was sitting in the front, and I remember I laughed so hard because Sean had told me don't sit in the front because last time he saw the show, this man made a child cry. Purposefully
No, Jemma,
went out.
he didn't just make the child cry. He made everyone turn on him. Not just like he went for the crowd. He told this child that if you don't be quiet, he will turn this entire audience on him. And it happened. It happened. This kid cried and no one felt bad about it.
Brilliant.
See, the thing also, I think what that tells me there is that Sean didn't learn the lessons from the Darkroom, which is you're not safe at the front.
I just know that during the first viewing of the Darkroom, I laughed so hard in the middle of the show that I dislocated my jaw. And I had to pop it back in mid-show.
But essentially, the Darkroom, the thing is, you might think with a standard show, if you're near the back, you're safe. No. There is nowhere in the room that you're safe. Quite funnily enough, the best way to actually avoid getting picked on if you want to at the Darkroom is sit near the front and look really confidently like you want him to talk to you. That's the best way you can avoid it. You're not necessarily safe, but it's the best way you can to avoid it if you want to. I say this because I know that there have been most of the times when I'm pretty sure people see me and they think, yeah, we won't bother picking on him. He looks like an improviser. He looks like he wants to show off right now. We're not going to give him the opportunity. And it's why I get to have a very peaceful fringe when no one talks to me.
So, what is your favourite recurring act, Joe?
I said I was going last. You're next,
okay.
Joe.
I love recurring acts. I really do. I am going to...
Is it? Well, everybody, we've had it for this week. It's
Jemma,
obscure things she declares a love for.
Happen over and over again. That's what she likes this week. She just loves them. She's so glad that they recur because she loves them that much. She gets to love them again.
I'm a passionate person with a bit of a stammer. Okay, and it that does tie into we're gonna be talking about what's our favorite aspect of the Fringe, and you'll see mine coming from a mile away. But I'm gonna choose my favorite recurring act has to be, because I will always go see his show whenever I'm at the Fringe. I pester him before every Fringe to say, are you bringing a show? When is it? So I can make sure I'm not doing a show during your show.
Hang on, you can't pick one of your mates.
Oh, let me guess.
No, here's the thing.
Let
If
me
I
guess.
like
Jem.
the show...
I know who it is.
If I like the
It's
show,
Al
I go and
Murray,
make
pub
friends.
landlord.
No.
Jem loves Al Murray. Everybody, if you're listening at home, send Jem your favourite Al Murray pics. She'll love it.
I am going to choose a different comedian. I'm going to choose somebody that if you've been listening to this podcast throughout Fringe, you'll have known, you'll have heard of, and you will have heard. My favourite recurring act has to be Rick Karanza. And he does your stand-up shows that are great, which are musical comedy as well. He does Star Wars versus Star Trek, which is just fun to watch nerds war. But then he also has this amazing show that is stand-up but also made me sob. And Rick he's got so much range as a creator. And every year, it's not just sort of a recurring act. It's not just the same thing brought up every single time, or the same kind of thing brought up every single time. It's Rick really developing his craft and playing with it and seeing what it can do. And I love it. And I've loved watching Rick Grow as a comedian, and he was one of my first friends at the Fringe, so of course I'm allowed to choose a friend, because if I like shows, I tend to go and make friends with the people, because that's the joy of the Fringe.
Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. His stand up show is really good, and he's one of the few that, like, you know when they have like a PowerPoint to back up the thing.
Yeah.
You know, they have like Olaf's really good at it, right? He has it themed. Matt Winning, there's a stand up called Matt Winning who does it, and he is amazing. And I like Rick's thing because his whole thing was like Star Trek based, and he had like the you know like the computers in Star Trek where they're like you ever see them in the background, they're just pressing buttons.
Yeah,
it was all themed like that, and I was like, this is brilliant. I like it when someone puts effort into a PowerPoint.
I was like, you know what, of all of the people I want to mention, Rick's the one that's like, he's the one I chase before going to the Fringe to be like, when are you doing your show? I want to come see. So Joe, what's your favourite recurring act?
Well, I've got a few of them that I ran through, and there was the aforementioned Police Cops. They're a troupe who do kind of like sci-fi kind of comedy with like a heavy physical theatre bent. And they do some incredible stuff in terms of recreating like the feeling of a sci-fi action movie on stage. And there's Kill the Beast, who are possibly the most imaginative theatre company in the UK at the moment in terms of just sheer like audacity of the ideas they present and how grand scale they can make things seem, while actually they not using much more than a kind of few bits of plywood as set and some basic costuming. But the one I wanted to highlight, because obviously this is, we are talking here as still as part of the PBH Free Fringe, is one of the people who's kind of kept me coming back and like kept the faith about the Free Fringe in my mind, are the Creative Martyrs, who are an apocalyptic cabaret act, in that what they essentially do is kind of like Weimar era kind of like traditional cabaret songs with two blokes in kind of white face paint, suits and bowler hats, one playing the ukulele and doing the lower pitched vocals, and the other one playing the cello and doing higher pitched vocals. And they just sing these kind of satirical songs about the modern day and also about the end of the world. And it's just, they exist within their own space of, there are possibly other acts that you could characterize as similar to them at the Fringe potentially, but what they do is, when whatever space they are in, it becomes their room for their slot. There is nothing else that exists outside of that room while they're performing, as far as I'm concerned. And the ability to create that atmosphere, and also to just kind of keep it going so that it feels like everything they do is part of a greater canon of their work, is just astonishing to me.
They are so good. I enjoy them.
They just write a banging tune.
Yeah, I like it. So, what about best show?
Huh?
Yeah,
done best show.
Next one
Let's go best aspect, best memory. Let's go with that. Come on, let's throw some moments in there. Is this the segue? I don't know. Am I doing it, or should I just like pretend that you're doing it now? Is this the cutting point, Jemma? Should we just go?
Let's just go.
Hey, Jemma.
So.
What? Hey.
So. What about favourite aspects?
Favourite aspects.
Yeah.
I like all the aspects of the Fringe. I like expecting something to be alright, and it's actually amazing. I genuinely like how there's something about Edinburgh that's amazing in itself. I quite like. How can I explain this without
You've
being?
You've got to pick one, Sean.
I've got to pick one. I don't care. I'm picking loads. I thought this while I was watching Fast and Furious 9, guys, the other day. And there's bits of it set in Edinburgh. And I also thought this while I was watching Avengers Infinity War. And I was there, like, watching it. And, like Vision's there, like, oh, I need to go and save the world. And all I could think, while him and Wanda are having this moment, thinking, oh, they do amazing jacket potatoes right there, Vision.
Yes.
If you just go to the shop next door, they do amazing jacket, and then obviously
Baked potato shop. Get the veggie haggis and guacamole. It'll
Yep.
change your life.
And then I was watching Fast and Furious 9, and they have like a car chase through Edinburgh, right?
Right.
And I was there thinking, I was there watching, I was like, that's not how you get there. You don't take that road.
I love
Yeah.
the food, but it's not my favourite aspect of the Fringe.
I will be honest. Food was my favourite aspect of the Fringe.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. But
Yeah,
I do have a more favourite one.
I did want to say though that Sean, I know what you mean about like when you expect something to be good, then you're surprised by. I'd seen the fly for it earlier when I was looking through my pile of like my archives, and I can't remember what the show was called now off the top of my head. But basically, one year we would just occasionally we'd take it in turns if we didn't have something to fill the time, picking who got to pick like the free show we went to. And it was my turn to pick, and I chose a show on conspiracy theories that I basically dragged Sean and I dragged our friends Tom and Ollie along to, and they all thought, okay, it's Joe's turn to pick, I guess. And basically, it ended up being this. I thought it was just going to be some kind of like dry lecture, and it ended up being a show that kind of was about
It's
the
called,
roots of a lot
Joe,
of.
It was called Conspiracy Theory, A Lizard's Tale.
That was
That's
it.
what it
Yeah.
was called.
and it was great because it was essentially this looking at the roots of a lot of kind of like essentially a lot of the conspiracy theories that you hear of like the lizard people stuff, peddled by a man called David Icke, who is also a raging anti-Semite, and it was
Brilliant.
looking at the view of these conspiracy theories as part of a great and accepted culture of anti-Semitism within the modern world. And it did this through a PowerPoint, through comedy, and also through song. And it was an oddly incredible thing that also, I think, left at least... Sean, I think it's fair to say at least some of your minds were blown, weren't they? A little bit.
Well, I don't know lie to you. When we went in there, and the room it was in, it was very much like the back room of some dodgy bar. And
Oh, it
like,
was actually the back room of a dodgy sports bar. It was.
Yeah. And just the way the room was, it was dark. It was a bit dusty, and like because like the window had been completely blacked out, and there was just like a projector on some books. It was very much perfect for this show. It was very much perfect. The ambiance that room created was perfect for this show. Like, here's a conspiracy theory for you. It was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, are we in a cult now?
Well,
It was exactly the environment where you expected someone to just start telling you about Pepe Sylvia. But,
There's no Pepe!
I'm going to not segue. I'm just going to start talking to get away from that scary
I have got
story.
a serious answer for like, my favourite aspect. So, my favourite aspect of it is that it's so... When someone says, oh... I like to say, oh, when people ask, like, oh, what sort of theatre are you into? And I always go, like, I used to go, oh, I like immersive theatre. Oh, no. But now I really just go, oh, I really like stuff that you get at, like, the Fringe festivals, like, at Edinburgh. And, like, oh, well, what's that? And then I'm like, well, what is that? So, like, the one aspect I like is that you can spend, like, you can watch 8 shows in a day. I wouldn't recommend it, though, from what I've found out that, like...
It sounds fun until you have the experience.
So the thing I really like is that you could watch, say, 8 shows in a day, and the odds are those 8 shows are completely different, and you wouldn't even think like that's theatre. So off the top of my head, right? I say off the top of my head, I am looking at my notes. Like you can get something like Bruce, which was basically a big bit of foam cut in half, some eyes on, and two guys worked him like a puppet, and it was literally the life story of this bit of foam, and it was amazing. The preview shows were like sold out, and it was amazing. Once you got over the fact that it's like this bit of foam, and they're like telling you this narrative, it's like, yeah, this is amazing. And the fact that it's just this bit of foam means that they could do so much more, as long as like the audience was on board with like, yeah, this foam's real, let's just go with it. So you've got that. I saw a show, what was it called? Alpha Moby, and it was literally a sci-fi version of Moby Dick, and it was set in the pitch black. There was no like stage lights. The only thing was like their helmets had some LEDs.
Are we gonna let Sean keep telling the story despite the fact we told it when he was?
I'm sorry to tell you,
no.
Both of those shows I brought up while you were off checking what your first show was.
Well, you know what?
Like,
they're good.
But I
good.
didn't explain what Bruce was for people.
Yeah.
I just said it was astonishing. So
You make me.
now
look
you've
like
had an
an idiot.
explanation.
Okay, so you've got you get that. So you get this show where it's like, oh, it's just so like, oh, it's just so down. It's like different. There was another show, and I can't remember what it was, but it was literally a radio play, and you there was 4 people, and they were just like reading a radio play, and it was
I've
like,
been
yeah,
trying to find
amazing.
what the name of that show was for
what was it
years because I
called?
loved it
was
as
like,
well.
It was like time travel and
Yeah,
everything,
it
weren't
was.
it?
Do you
It was
remember
one where
which?
it was about like a.
Do you remember which venue it was?
No,
Because maybe anyone listening
Yeah,
can remember.
yeah.
I remember it. And then
It was
like,
in
you go
one of
from
the
that,
rooms of the dome. I know that much.
Okay.
and you go from that, and you go to like Colt Cabana's show, where it's like so niche to wrestling fans, and it's like a reaction video but on stage, and you get insight for what this industry is, and you go from that, then you do a stand up, then you go to like the dark room. It's just so different, and then you'll go to like I won't say them because I'm definitely gonna mention them later. But then you go to like a 4-person theatre company, and they do like this like amazing show, and it's like, yeah, that's theatre. That's what you think theatre is, and then you got all this other stuff around it. That's like, oh yeah, this is theatre as well. Give this a go. That's my favourite aspect. That it's just so.
I love
there's
it.
just so much.
Well,
There's some shows are so good that they're worth mentioning twice on a podcast. It's
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly.
See, my favourite aspect of the Fringe is much quicker. It's mushroom curry, aubergine curry, rice, and a samosa from the mosque kitchen.
Yep.
Yep. And then I go over the road and have a KFC.
Yeah, and Sean goes over the road and has KFC while we all eat curry.
The Mosque Kitchen is definitely a shout out, as is
yeah.
Elephant and Bagel and the
Yep.
Pie Maker.
You gotta show respect as well to the mac and cheese pies, and to cheese and jalapeno bagel with cream cheese, peppers, and walnuts on it. It is the G.
The first meal I have in Edinburgh, whenever I'm in Edinburgh, and it will always be the very first meal I have, is a tatty dog from Pie Maker. That's how I engage with Edinburgh. That's when I'm like, now I'm in Edinburgh mode. I've had a tatty dog.
It was called Suspicious Minds because it. Do you remember, Joe?
It was called
had an
Suspicious
Elvis Presley
Minds.
thing. There we
Yes.
go. Just found it. There we go.
Ah, but yeah,
We've answered a decades-long question, I'm guessing.
I was going to dig through a pile of tickets until I found a stub that I couldn't explain.
I was there like looking for like it doesn't help in my notes that it's like written right next to a show called The Time Machine, and I was like, no, The Time Machine was a radio play about Time Machine
that was Lawrence
story.
Owen, who is a fantastic kind of composer / comedian. I don't even want to kind of like say musical comedian because I feel like that throws out certain things that people assume from it. It's like he makes full pieces of music that just so happen to be funny occasionally.
So,
Yeah.
surprising show. What surprised you guys?
Sean.
Jem.
I know I introduced you second on this podcast, but can I give my favourite aspect of the Fringe?
Haven't we already just discussed the food?
You said
That's
food.
not my favorite. I said outwardly. That's not my favorite aspect. Like, it's one of my favorite aspect, but if I had to pick the favorite aspect, it's not.
I'm sorry.
Are you ready to cry?
I mean, we've already talked about Jurassic Park. I'm across that Rubicon.
You're on that line. Look, I have to say my favorite aspect, and I was umming and ahhing over it, but it has to be the fact that every single year there are regulars that go to the Fringe. If you've never done the Fringe before, you have your you have your newbies, you have your once in a whiles, you have your big shows that kind of insulate and stick with themselves. But you have a group of people who go every single year, and it's the pilgrimage. And those people, even if it's just small nooks, those people are my favourite aspect. Every single year I get to go to the Fringe, and it's like the gang coming back together, because I get to see these people in person and hang out with them and watch shows and watch them do something they absolutely adore doing and living their best life and living their dreams, and I get to go and see my friends and do this. And it's also the one time of the year where I know I'm going to see you two as much as you are. You're also my best friends, and I get to see you in person, and we get to go and like be havocy and crazy, and I really love that. But it's the fact that people from Australia, people from the States, I have got friends all around the world because of the Fringe. But also we come together every year and we have this crazy, wonderful, fun time and share what we're thinking and share what we're doing. And it's like the gang getting back together. And ultimately, like, that is absolutely my favourite aspect of it. I agree with both of you. The food's amazing, and the fact that you can see absolutely anything at any time, and it's like this complete buffet of art and theatre and joy is amazing. But I'm gonna be smushy. I'm gonna be all feelsy and say that I like it when the gang comes back together.
See, I kind of get that as well. Like, basically, there's this pair of sketch comedians called Sean and Zoe, who I've seen quite a few years at the Fringe now. I've also seen them both doing like solo acts up at the Fringe, I think. What did I see? Yeah, I think it did. Doesn't matter. But basically, and it was one year Sean was doing one of her solo shows, and that was the first show I'd seen where literally what I did was I got off the train, went straight to my hostel, dropped my bags, left, went straight to this show. It was, I was talking to her afterwards and just saying, kind of, thanks for this, explain what just happened. And then ended up 2 or 3 times just over the Fringe that year, seeing her just kind of around, like, and she'd stop and say, hey, Joe, and then give me recommendations of whatever she was off to go and see. And
exactly. One
of those shows I ended up going to see was another group called Moon, who were another kind of like surrealist sketch duo, and they were also pretty incredible. And I just kind of love that community feel of it. It's like, obviously a large part of it is often people just being like, hey, these are people we're living with, or these are our friends. But it's still just a great thing of, no one's just up there to kind of promote their own show. Everyone's there as part of the community.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore it. And as much as it's like, oh, I want to see new stuff, I think it is a good problem to have when I'm like, I've got a finite amount of time to see stuff, and it's now just filling up with seeing the stuff that my friends are putting on. And to like shout them out, it's going to be Shani and the 2 little dickheads, which is, whatever Shani touches is absolute clowning joy with 2 little dickheads. You've got Eric Lamper, who is just a fantastic comedian who's pushing the boundaries. Absolutely love it. Of course, there's Rick. There's always going to be whatever shows Joe's putting on and whatever shows we're kind of putting on as well. Then, I mean, you've got...
Hang on, why don't I... What do you mean we? Why does Joe get his own? And then I get involved in, like, the whatever we put on?
Because the only time
be fair,
I'm putting on a show with Joe.
You haven't done it yet, though.
Yeah, Sean, we're still not ready to announce that.
I don't
Look,
get
I'm
why
just-
Joe gets his. Oh, whatever. You've ruined this now.
Hey,
Okay.
you know
Moving
what?
on.
I think let's bring it something nicer and let's talk about our best memories of the Fringe instead.
No, I think we were going to get too smushy for too
No,
long.
I
What's
want
your
to.
best show? What's
the best?
We can't
What's the
keep
most
going back to
surprising-
best
it's
show,
the
Jen.
Why do you keep saying best show? We've done that one first.
No, we did favourite show first.
That's. Hang on, didn't we establish that was pretty much the same thing?
No. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
What's
How
the
do you
most
define the difference
surprising
between
show?
favourite and best show, Jem?
What? Okay, favourite is my absolute. I love it. But the best show that I could think is the best show. But that's fine. I'll just mention
Alright.
them some other time.
In
What's
that case, I'm just going to give my answer to it, which was basically, I took best show to be. I decided favourite show is my favourite show I've seen. My best show is the best show I've done. So,
I'm not
What?
answering that.
What? I'm so confused. Right. Okay.
yeah,
Joe, was your favourite show the best show that you've seen?
no.
What was the best show that
well-
you've seen at the Fringe? Let's
Well,
just
well, that was what I
indulge
said was my favourite show. And that's why I thought I'd come up with a completely different answer
That's
for
what
best show.
Let's go on to
Like,
most surprising show.
quantifiably, I can't determine what is the best show I've seen in the Fringe. Because that wouldn't be to explain what is necessarily the best
Exactly.
thing. That's like
Joe.
trying to argue my favourite film is Toy Story 2. But arguably the best
It's
film
such
is
a good one,
Toy
isn't
Story
it? I
2.
like Toy Story 2.
Okay.
I
best
don't
film.
think it gets enough rap. I
Toy
don't think it
Story
gets
2,
enough-
as great as it is not a Fringe show. But what is the
And
most
do you know what else?
surprising
Do you
show?
know what else that doesn't get enough talk? Is the game for Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
It was amazing. They should remake that.
Shout,
feel like
shout out
we
to
are
the other best film
manifesting-
ever made, Paddington 2, my homeboy.
I feel like we're manifesting the chaos that you can fall down into at the Edinburgh Fringe.
This is you, Gemma.
Yeah.
Not
What
knowing,
is-
not knowing that we
All right,
agreed on
so-
best and favourite.
Sean
So-
Brady.
What was your
So-
What was your best?
So do you want me to tell you what my best show was?
No, I
Hang
don't.
on,
I
we're not-
want you to tell me what your most surprising show is. What is your most surprising show? I will not accept any other answer.
Alright, so my most surprising show, in a weird way, was in my second year at the Fringe. I saw Bo Burnham's show, What?
What?
And-
You saw that live?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, also I forgot to tell you, the most surprising aspect about it was me waiting to see Jem's reaction when I told her
No,
I saw this
I
live.
think you've told me this. I think you have told me this,
Yeah,
and
I
I think
know.
you have.
And I
It's
knew she'd
coming back
forget,
to me
and
now.
I knew she'd react exactly like that.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because this sounds surprising considering my tastes as concerns like stand-up these days. But this was the first show I watched where I truly considered that stand-up could be more than just jokes.
Yeah.
And I'd went in there kind of knowing him and being like, oh, he's that guy who does like the funny songs on YouTube, isn't he? And wasn't expecting a show that became so kind of inventive in its staging and also so gosh darn emotional.
What
like-
can I ask out of curiosity? What venue was he playing?
What was he playing? He was playing at the Pleasance.
Okay.
At one of the venues at the Courtyard.
okay.
Like I think he was playing at. What's the
don't
name of
need
the
a
biggest
room.
venue of the Courtyard?
Just say the Courtyard,
Just say the
Joe. She
Courtyard.
doesn't
That'll
need to know
do.
the
He was playing
exact
the
route.
Courtyard.
Cool.
You know if you go in the front and you turn right and then turn left, you go past the toilets and you go there. He was around there somewhere.
Yeah.
Just say the Courtyard.
Well, actually, no, he was playing one like the big rooms next to the Courtyard, but it was part of the Pleasance.
Above or below? Okay, cool.
I love that he's the one that's saying, "Oh, can we make sure that we're really quick with the answers? Because I'm not sure about how long my recording lasts this time. So it can be really quick." And then he's the one saying, "Right, so it was around here. It was around here somewhere. I think."
That's a fair point.
So, Sean, what was your
gosh.
most surprising show?
I'm gonna give multiple answers because I don't care.
That's fine. I'm going to do the same.
well, good. I give you permission. So my first one, and I think the one where I was like most surprised. I think, again, Joe said, "Oh, I think these guys are good, but they're on at the half price hut, so I don't know." And he was like, "And we can't find them on social media, but I think they're gonna be good." And it was for a show called. Can you remember, Joe? Let me try and find.
I don't know if I remember which show you're on about now.
It was.
That could be any.
Let me check my notes. It was. So it was in my first year at the Fringe. Second year at the Fringe. So I was still a bit like, oh, it was called Apocalypse Cruise Ship Love Affair.
Oh
You
yeah,
keep
I
going
remember
on
now.
about this show.
And it was so, like, to expect absolutely nothing. And to be given, like, a really funny... You know, I could see this being on, like you know how, like, the show that goes wrong has gone, gone and made things. You could easily see this going, like, mainstream. It was a lot of fun. It could easily be its own, like, BBC Three series. And it was so much fun. And we got the tickets, like, for a £5. And, like, the show had been not doing, hadn't been doing well. That's why it was at the half price hut. And it was so good. It was literally just a comedy about how people was on a cruise ship and they were all falling in love with one another, and then the apocalypse just happened to be there as well. And it was just that, and it was a lot of fun. That's my note. That I was like, oh, I came out of that buzzing, like, what? That was amazing. And then we tried to, like, see if they were, like, doing stuff the next year, and they just disappeared. No idea what happened to them. So my other two.
Yeah.
I am actually gonna have most surprising moment as well, not show.
Okay.
And I love, like, nostalgia. If you ask any of my friends, how'd you get a cheap pop off Sean? And it literally is reference something from the 90s and Sean will like it. Right?
Pretty much.
So when I saw that they were doing Get Your Own Back as a show, I was like, we are going. I don't care what it is, we are going.
Oh,
and it was like, Dave Benson Phillips was gonna be there, and I'm like, yes. So my most surprising moment was I'm walking with Joe, and we're walking down the street, and in the distance, we were going to the show, so it makes sense that he's in the area, but you don't expect to see him, and we can see him in the distance, and I'm like to Joe, I'm like, that's Dave Benson Phillips, but I'm not close enough to, like, be that confident that it is. I'm like, I've got to be sure. If I go over and say hello to him, and it was Dave Benson Phillips, I got to meet Dave Benson Phillips, guys.
I can confirm, Sean. He was fanboying.
Oh, it was amazing. I met Dave Benson Phillips. It was crazy. Oh,
I just remember you weren't best pleased because Dave was going around with a film crew to, like, get people to film something for the show, and he happened to stop me and asked me to do this, and I did it, and it was like, yeah, cool, go for it. And then as he was walking away, I was like, actually, one of my friends is a massive, massive fan of yours. Can I get a photo of you to make him absolutely jealous? And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll like, give us a hug as well. And I remember sending that photo to you and also telling you that I was now going to be part of the show in a weird way. And you weren't best pleased.
Well, I wanted to be part of the show. Anyway, so then my most surprising thing is when you see, like, a show that you think, I was expecting a bad show. I was expecting... This is my most surprising moment now. This is, like, my most. I was expecting a bad show. I went there just on the promise of a title, because I was like, if you're calling your show this...
I've got a feeling you're about to say what
I
I'm
knew nothing
going
about
to say.
the theatre company. I didn't even know anything about the poster. I knew the title, and I was like, I'm booking this ticket because you've got to go and see this show. This company ended up being one of the best shows I've ever seen at the Fringe. If I was doing best show, this would be up there. Mm-hmm. And they have not only surprised me that much. I think they're one of the best theatre companies working in Britain at the minute, to the point where I have literally every script that they have, like, published, and to the point where at work I have said, oh, these guys are touring, we should definitely go and see these guys are amazing. So I discovered them because I was just flicking through the Edinburgh Fringe book, and there was a show called Lights Over Tesco Car Park, and I was like, whatever this is, I am going to see it.
Okay.
Did anyone come and watch? No, I went on.
I don't know what this is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Lights Over Tesco Car Park. I've not spoke about it. It's by Hang on.
Not a Monkeys show.
It's by Poltergeist Theatre. Can we see that?
How is this something that you're obsessed with? And like, I've never heard of it.
How have you mentioned this to us?
I have.
Jem, has he mentioned this to us?
I think he's mentioned it to everybody on the planet except us. I think we're now the last ones to hear about it.
People.
Are we bad friends? Have we not been listening to Sean?
You are bad friends. Do you want to know how I know you're not bad friends? This is how I know you're bad friends.
How we're not bad friends, or we are bad friends?
In 2019, you wouldn't come to watch. You want to come to this with me
yeah,
as well?
Art Heist.
Remember this? This is their next show.
Oh, I remember.
Okay.
Okay, I remember.
This was amazing as well.
I remember you getting
this
really
was so
angry
much
at me
fun,
for
and then
saying
this was just even better. They are amazing. They're called Poltergeist Theatre. They do, simple shows. It's just the 4 people, but they have so much. It's so much fun to watch, and they tell such an amazing story. So, like, Lights Over Tesco Car Park is about. It's got like Stranger Thing vibes. It's got like this group of 4 friends, and they're investigating aliens, and they're interviewing these people.
You have told us about this. I remember. I know.
And they have moments with the audience where the audience are, they're creating different case files. It's really good. And then Art Heist is about an art heist, and it's really clever how they like use different parts of the stage and actually have a narrator in it, which sort of like dictates the way the show goes, and it's really good. And they have like in this they have a joke with a coin. That coin gets flipped. It's like a reoccurring joke, and it's amazing. And I was expecting absolute garbage from a name like Lights Over Tesco Car Park, and instead I got maybe one of the best theatre companies I have ever seen. Done.
Wow. So if anybody goes and sees them, try not to put that level of pressure on them. They are still human. I have to say, sticking with the whole best show, most surprising show, I think I was struggling with this show to put it into one of those categories. Because it is both. It is one of the best shows that I've ever seen at the Fringe. And possibly one of the best shows I've seen. And also the most surprising show, because it played at the... What's that? What's that venue on Cowgate that's like a tiki bar? With the multiple levels.
You mean Barbados?
Barbados. It was playing at Barbados.
Oh, I wonder why I know there. It's almost like I performed there one year.
I think we'd gone through a string of shows leading up to it on this day where they were just bad. Or like every show we'd seen so far in that run at Barbados had been just like, oh, okay, cool. I wasn't expecting much. And I was taken to the show, and Joe, you were there, Sean, you were there as well.
I was about to say, I think I know what show you're on about, and I was trying to work out how to include this one as well.
Trust me,
it's the Meatball show, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks for giving it away. John Michaels, was it just called Meatball? If you Google
I can't
John
remember
Michael
what
Meatball,
it was called.
Give me a second.
I think it was like Meatball Monster or something like that.
Or like Meatball Monologues?
I remember seeing the poster and kind of going...
Meatball Seance.
Meatball Seance. Thank you, Sean, and your inimitable ability to catalogue everything.
I love it. Honestly, I was not in the best mood. I was kind of giving up on the day I'd written it off. And we go, and we're all sat, and I didn't really see the poster beforehand, and it was like, oh yeah, this is just Meatball something, and I was like, oh goodness, it's with a title like that, it could be the most horrific thing ever. And then this guy appears wearing nothing but his boxers and an apron, a floral apron, and I was like, oh goodness, here we go. Here we absolutely go. Fine, and I buckled in for a ride. And I kid you not, I keep thinking about that show. I keep thinking about everything that performer did. And John Michael is an astonishing performer coming out of San Francisco. And what a show. The show, it's called Meatball Seance. It's about this young guy who's trying to get in touch with his passed away mother through making her meatballs. And you do this because he wants to tell his mom about his boyfriend and his new boyfriend. And he does this by, there's so much audience interaction, and as an audience you help him make these meatballs. And I was astonished not only by this amazing, like this really simple, whimsical, weird, amazing concept for a show, but also his presence and things like, at the Fringe, so many people get quite nervous about being picked on and audience interaction. It makes a lot of people very nervous. And there's loads of study and there's loads of like practice and best practice into like how to tell if somebody might or may not be into being interacted with and things like that. And like you're meant to kind of understand and get in the audience head. This
Jemma,
guy turns around and goes, right,
could you send that to me and Joe at some point? We might need it soon.
Yeah, I know. But this guy, do what John Michael does. He just turns to the audience and he's like, right, I'm going to interact with you. If you don't want to be interacted with, because we're all into consent, if you don't want to be interacted with, keep your arms folded. If you do, or you don't mind being interacted with, don't fold your arms. And I was like, okay, A, you've got consent. B, it's so simple. And then the staging, the use of really simple like light usages, and it was so funny, and it was so brilliant, and it was whimsical. It was totally Fringe. It was so funny, and I nearly bawled my eyes out because it was so touching. It was everything you want from a Fringe show, and I was on stage handling meat, cutting onions up and making meatballs with a stranger.
I'm glad you brought this bit up, Jem, because there is something that we have an unresolved issue. You could, if you wanted to, call it an unresolved beef, but I don't know whether they were pork meatballs. But when you were doing that, Jem, we've never covered this, I think, before. You rough chopped an onion. Have you never made meatballs before, Jem? You dice them.
Okay. First of all, the knife is slightly blunt because, you know, you don't want the audience just chopping fingers off. You'd rather them just like, oh, that nipped a bit. I was under pressure. I didn't realise. Also, I was trying to cut them far away from myself so I wouldn't sob on stage or just be in blind pain. And like there was a dude being very energetic in his underwear, coming right up. Like there was a lot. I was just enjoying
that's
myself.
What cooking's like, Jem. Have you? I don't know how cooking is for you,
Joe.
That's why they had to cancel Ready Steady Cook, because it got too intense.
Joe, I distinctly remember you crossing your arms.
What?
So, you know, if you want to dice an onion, you go on stage next time.
Hey, I left my arms completely unfolded. I was probably as per normal, because it was Barbados, using them to prop up the back of my head because those chairs were uncomfortable.
I actually know I do. I do remember there was a weird moment where I could see John Michael looking to like potentially choose you to come up on stage with him, and I was giving them this look that I was hoping was getting the message to him of he's an improviser, be aware.
Yeah,
danger.
Look, I will
How'd you
return
do that
to this.
with your eyes?
I've made it very clear. My energy is such that people can tell I'm the sort of person who likes to show off, so they don't want to give me what I want, which is what I want.
I know. Well, what was your most surprising show, Joe?
We started with mine. It was Bo Burnham.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, so, someone ain't making notes today.
I'm not. I thought I'd improvise. I thought I'd just have a chat, Sean.
Let's go on to the last one. Let's go on to our last topic. And I know. Oh, Joe, did you want to say? I want to do the segue.
No, I was going to say we've actually got two last topics.
Yeah, we've got two last ones. Let's go. Do we want to end on best bad show, or do we want to end on best memory? I think
let's end on best memory. That seems like the best one to go out on.
Okay.
Best bad show.
So I want to bring this one up of you when you were saying to us about the categories for this, said this as best bad show as in so bad it's good.
Yeah.
And I kind of couldn't quite reconcile myself with this because I don't think the principle of so bad it's good works in the same way with theatre. Because I think there's an ability with it with, like, say, films or TV, where because of the medium with which you're normally experiencing it, if it's like at home, there's an ability to check out of it, to make the experience, the performers on a film, if it's a bad film, can't see you laughing unintentionally at it. Whereas there's a connection with a live performance that's bad, where you still, I think fundamentally, I assume you two both agree, as performers, as people who've worked in theatre, we know what they're going through, and you instantly have a bit more empathy for them. Because you're like, this could very easily be me in a show that got, say, 2 and 1 star reviews.
I'll be honest, Joe. For the most, I agree with you. But I have been in some performances where I'm like, nah, there's no sympathy enough in this world that isn't gonna make me want to walk out right now.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
But so instead, kind of faintly in the vein of like, kind of a bit like a lower stakes potentially version of a play that goes wrong. I want to use this space to highlight one that was a show we went to see on the recommendation of previously mentioned on the show. Again, shout out again to my fellow boat clubber Tommy Tugboat. We went to see a show called Bendiana Jones and the Temple of Huge, and it was this pair of comedians, one of whom, Hugh Owens, would go on, I think, a few years later to be nominated for the best new act at the Edinburgh Fringe. Though weirdly, best new act 4 or 5 years after we saw him. Which I think explains a lot about how they consider a newcomer to be. It's just when they've noticed them. But basically, this show was, it was them telling jokes, playing silly things, and kind of telling a story of an Indiana Jones style pair of adventurers, but through kind of purposely awkward moments, bits where jokes were designed not to land. And it was all meant to be building this kind of partially sad, partially awkward, partially cringe comedy atmosphere alongside these pretty hilarious songs in telling the story of a person kind of trying to do a stand-up set about their favourite film in the wake of their dad's death. And it was one of these things where it's incredibly well skirted the line where you weren't sure whether they were geniuses or fucking up. And that is the finest line that is possible. You can do that so badly and make it clear that you're trying to do the only equivalent I can think of is when you see those sort of films like the Asylum films where they're clearly trying to be cult classics.
Yeah.
And they don't realise that the thing is, you need to go into it with full sincerity. And that's it, as I think there was no winking at the audience. They completely played this like it was a bad show, but it was an intentionally badly done show, beautifully designed to reflect the purpose of what they were doing.
Fantastic. I'm jealous. I want to see this show.
I fell asleep.
Okay.
Sean fell asleep.
Two different sides of coin, two different perspectives. That makes sense. That reflects the Fringe. Sean's gonna hate my best bad show.
Am I?
Yeah, you're gonna shout at me.
Okay.
Sean, what was your one? So
I agree with Joe. I know I suggested it, but then as soon as I was thinking about it, I was like, I've just been to bad shows. Never anything that's gone full circle. I was like, this is amazing. Everyone should watch it. So I've thought of what show did I watch and enjoyed that on paper shouldn't have even been a thing.
Yeah.
And shouldn't even had an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sums up some aspects of why I would like Edinburgh, that someone could be like, well, I want to do this, and if people want to come and watch, then sound. But I'm doing it. So there was a show that lasted for, I think, 2 years.
Yeah.
Called Comedians Play Super Mario Maker.
Okay.
And the premise was comedians play Super Mario Maker. And it was this one stand-up called Chris Coltrane, who had another show as well that went alongside it. Sadly, not a stand-up anymore. He was one of them people that we would always check. Oh, he's got a show, let's go and watch it. And then 1 year, just not.
Stopped,
and it was literally, it would be midnight, the show would start, and he would do the 100 Lives Challenge, so on Super Mario Maker 1. And him and invited stand-up would do 10 lives each, and then just swap over. And they would keep going until they lost all their lives. And you'd be like, some nights we were there until like 1 a.m, some nights we were there until we fell asleep. It would literally just keep going until this show has ended.
Yeah, one night we were there till 3:30 in the morning, and then afterwards the 4 or 5 audience that remained till the end we all went for a beer afterwards with Chris.
Yeah. There was something about that show that it's like, this shouldn't work. This is just like you hanging out. But it was like, yeah, this is so much fun. So, and do you know what? Some might say that it's inspiring. Other shows, who knows?
But we're still not ready to reveal anything.
That's really sweet. I feel like I'm definitely going to make Sean angry now.
Okay.
You're just going to mention that show
She
that you
does
come
this
to go on
all the
about.
time.
You're just going to say puppet fiction, aren't you?
This is gonna. Oh my god! I'd drive to York and slap her in the face if she said public fiction.
I'm not in York, so go for it.
Please feel free to drive to York and just stop by Sheffield on your way back, Sean.
No, what was? Oh, I was gonna say something. Jemma always does this. She's like saying she says, "Oh, Sean's not gonna like this," or "Oh, I'm gonna say this because I think Sean's gonna do it," and it never is. I get no reaction.
This time, though.
Okay.
So my best bad show that has ever been to the Fringe, right?
So you're saying it was so bad you loved it?
It was so bad it was the best.
Okay.
Right? Now I don't
can
mean...
I guess? Is it Ofit D's debut show?
It is. It is my selfie. Ofit D's
Are you
debut.
serious?
Let me finish before you rage out and run away. I'm going to give a shout out, and I'm going to explain myself. So back in 2015, Ofit D, our company, took a show called My Selfie. It was spelt weird. It was theatre student.
I want to clarify one thing quickly. At this point, I was living with these two during the Fringe, but I was not a part of Ofit D at this time. I am in no way connected to My Selfie.
Okay.
Except for one afternoon where I handed out some of their flyers with my flyers in the wee blue books.
Yes.
That's it.
And you came to the show. And you came to the show often. Sean, don't just disappear. He's raged out and left. I'm going to explain myself anyway, because I think, Joe, you will definitely understand and you will agree. And I don't know where... I'm nervous as to where Sean's gone.
I mean, I will say I saw this show, and I saw its first show and its last show, and I'll give you it got better.
Yeah, it did, because right, My Selfie was absolute theatre student work. It was the worst show. It also, we'd spent so long writing it, and so many people dropped out, and we did like residencies, and we it was just it was horrible. And we ended up rewriting it the night before we started playing it, and then we rewrote it 3 days later, and then we rewrote it again, and we kept. It was not great. It was a horrible, horrible show. Now I need Sean to be here for this bit, but I guess when he edits this episode, just before it goes out, this is when he'll hear this bit. So Sean of the future, listen out. My selfie, I have to say, was the best bad show at the Edinburgh Fringe because ultimately it was the first show that we took up. Oh, there's a Sean. There's a Sean.
I genuinely expected him to somehow appear in the door behind you and just go, "Are you fucking kidding me?" and then leave again.
Right, are you ready for the explanation, Sean?
Did you not carry on?
I did carry on.
Oh, we
but
did.
We've wasted time because you need to hear this. My selfie was the best.
I'll just listen to it in the edit.
My selfie was the best bad show because it was the time. It was a direct response to. I had left university. I had left this group of people that I thought were amazing creative people, and I was watching so many of these fantastic artists go into jobs that they hated, go into jobs that weren't something that they wanted to do, and all I wanted to do was make theatre. All I wanted to do was make theatre. So I sent a message out to I think it was 10 people or so, and I was like, hey, I want to make a show. I'm going to take it to the Edinburgh Fringe, whatever it is, and I'm going to do it. Do you want in? And I remember thinking, Sean and I were friends at uni, but hadn't really ever considered working together past the Fringe. And I remember thinking, Sean Brady is one of the best technicians that I have seen. He's fantastic. I hope he says yes. He said yes, and then he stuck around. And ultimately, it dwindled down to 4 of us who went up to the Fringe. It was the worst show, but it proved to you all that Edinburgh, because I'd gone a couple of years before, Edinburgh was possible. It proved that Edinburgh was possible. It started OFITD and myself being at the Fringe every single year there on in. It brought Sean Brady, who confessed in this podcast that he loves Edinburgh Fringe more than most things on this planet. It brought him to the Fringe to show him that. It was a massive learning curve. It still is the only source of a poem that I've ever been able to write, the only poem I've ever been able to write. It was a crap show, but ultimately, it has given me and given OFITD so much that I think it's the best show.
I mean, I'll give you it. I'll give you
there
it.
You
but
go.
we all take a vote. It was
categorically a bad show. It was
bag of shit.
I mean,
categorically something that we don't speak about for a reason.
I mean,
but I am
I'm
speaking
still
about
going
it
to
because
pose
in
this
this
point.
context needs to be spoken about.
I know that I've spent the last kind of however many episodes arguing with you about a dog with a GoPro on it. I'm still not sure I'd clarify it as a show.
Yeah,
Do you know what's even more shocking? I know it's shit, and I had to be there because I was in it. Someone came and watched it. How many times, Joe? 3?
2.
Yeah. I think that was just because he got to change. He got to have free reign over changing anything on my Facebook profile. Stupid.
Well, it was actually because basically, it was you guys. I was living with you, and when you were saying we've made some changes to the show, it'd be really great if you could come and see it again. I couldn't not.
True.
I was living with you.
But it was good. So best
also,
memories.
you guys came to see my show like 3 or 4 times. It would have been
but yours
kind of
was
rude
good.
if I'd been like, yeah, nah, I'm not coming to your piece of shit.
Best memories, Jemma, go.
Oh fuck no! Go.
Okay, fine. I've got 3 best memories that I want to cover with this. First one is falafel. Are they real? Second memory, the time that after an improv drink-off show we drank until the wee hours of morning with an Australian couple where one of them looked weirdly like Ed Sheeran. Number 3, the time that during a Games of Cards Against Humanity Sean threw a chair at me. Done.
Oh gosh, yes.
I will be expanding no further on any 3 of those memories. No questions taken. Sean.
I love that 2 of them are me. Okay, so
Yeah, 2 of them are Sean.
my favourite memory of the Edinburgh Fringe is I got to see Nightmare live. Okay, so the first time we went there, the second time we went there, it was there, but because I was so unlucky, our show was on at the same time, so I literally couldn't see the one show that I've waited years to see, because I, again, love nostalgia, and when I heard that they'd turned one of my favourite kids TV shows into a show, I literally wrote an essay about it at university, and then when I was like, oh my god, I'm at the Fringe, I can see it, I can't because of my show. So then 2 years after that, I actually got to watch it, and it was amazing, and it was everything I wanted it to be. The only thing that let it down is that I weren't in it. Audience members got to put the helmet on and bid a thing, and if I knew that, I would have written like some soppy letter and pretended to be like one of my friends to send it off saying, oh, Sean really needs to be in this show because he loves it, blah, blah, blah. But that was, yeah, and it was amazing. It was brilliant. Oh, and then I got to hear a whole crowd say, like, the person would go, where am I? And everyone in the crowd went, you're in a room. And I was like, yes.
Hey,
that's my
Sean,
favourite memory.
If we're ever up at the Fringe again and Nightmare Live is up at the Fringe again, if you've still got a copy of that essay,
I'll write you a template. I'll send you a template
and I will
over.
send it to them saying,
Okay.
my friend wrote an essay on Nightmare Live. Can he please be in it?
This is
My
his
friend
photo.
wrote an essay about how the future of theatre is based in an 80s kids type TV show on ITV. Yep.
But yeah, I will submit it on your behalf, Sean, if
Cool.
we're there
So-
and they're there.
So my favourite memory, there are, I'm gonna follow your lead, Joe. I'm gonna say three. So, well, I'll probably go for four. One of them, probably actually not the best memory, but still, I'm fucking proud of it. Selling out Cats and Dogs, which was our second show. That was an amazing moment. Awesome, fantastic. Then it's the look on Sean's face anytime and every time I meet something like Rick or get a hug off of Colt Cabana or anything like that, and Sean's like, no. I just love the Fringe. I had a load in my head. Joe, that video of you flyering is one of my favourite things ever. I love it so much. I absolutely adore it. Oh my goodness. There was another one that involved Sean, but it's basically, I love it. I love the Fringe. And the whole thing is a good memory. It's my happy place, both for realsies and when I'm just going to try and imagine something. So, that was our little roundup of the Edinburgh Fringe. Sean, good luck tagging everybody in this description.
I'll try.
This is the
Gotta
episode.
edit it first.
I was going to storm off for longer, but I then remembered that you said you wanted to get this episode over and done with, so I didn't decide to commit to the bit too hard.
That's all right.
Good.
That's all right. We're just about to say goodbye.
Yeah.
But thank you, anybody. Do you want to say something, Joe? You feel like you want to say
Oh,
something?
no, I did just want to throw in two others, or one more, really, I'll focus on. The time that a guy was waiting for some change from a bucket at an improv drink-off show, and then he said, you know what, actually, I'm in a hurry and you deserved it, and he put a 20 into the bucket.
Oh, that is nice.
I thought I'd just end on a real humble brag of a favourite memory.
No, that's all right. I also just want to give another shout out to a really great show, which is the Jolly Boot, the Jolly Boat guys.
Jolly Boat.
Jolly Boots, Jolly Boat guys are amazing, and their fandom is just absolutely mind-boggling. I love them, and they definitely deserve an absolute shout-out on this podcast. It's like a roundup of the Edinburgh Fringe. But thank you, anybody who's listening, and more so, thank you to anybody who has ever been to the Fringe. We've definitely missed out people that are worth a mention, and can't wait to see everybody up there again. Can't wait to be up there again, eating a potato from the potato shop over the course of a whole day because they're so huge, and watching some amazing shows so that we black out and wake up on a stage with some magicians at 1 a.m. in the morning. But thank you so much to anybody who's listening. Thank you more to the acts that have been mentioned. Hopefully you've enjoyed the Edinburgh Fringe, and we'll see you up in Edinburgh next year, hopefully.
And thank you.
Thank you!
So many thank yous.
And you can find me at NOTJOERACZKA.
Oh yeah, you can find
Yeah,
us on
yeah.
OFITD. There you go.
You can find us where you found this.
Yeah.
It's there.
My
in the
name
link.
will be
Got a link
below
tree.
this. I didn't
Yeah,
need to say
the
that.
Fringe is done now. The Fringe is done now. So follow us, and then you'll see what we do in the future. Maybe Sean and Joe will finally announce their show.
Yeah, and look forward to season 3 of the Theatre Pitch podcast coming soon.